Another edition of The Nation. I'm Jared Ratnam, back with you, and today we're going to be talking about a topic everyone talks about these days. When it comes to the kids, they're talking about new games. When it comes to their parents, they're always complaining about their kids buying new games. What are we talking about? We're talking about online gaming, or just gaming. It is one of the biggest things in the world. It's spending a lot of money, a lot of revenue worldwide. And in the studio with me today is Stephen Yong. He's a game designer, and he's here to talk about his life in the gaming world. And he's a very interesting person simply because he's not only a gamer, he's someone who makes games, and his hobby is making coffee. He doesn't like to drink coffee, but he makes coffee, and he's joining us today. Stephen, thank you very much for taking time off to get to our studios. You know how bad the jam is around here. Thank you for making it here. We're always happy to have someone who brings in information for us. Well, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to gaming, and before we talk about gaming and its effects on the world and what's doing now, what it's doing to younger people right now, let's talk about you. How did you get into the gaming world?
All right. Well, my name is Stephen, and I design games, and it's kind of something I stumbled upon.
Right.
I started back in about 2002.
Right. And this was whilst you were still in college?
I was working there. Thank you for thinking I'm so young. And it started about 2002. As a hobby, I started making a few simple games for a group of friends, me included, to play. And it kind of snowballed from there.
Right.
So that's my humble beginning of game design.
So when it snowballed from there, you were already in the working world, and you were introduced to games back in 2002. What was one of the first few games that you played?
First few games that I played, wow. I would say the first few games that I
This is ancient history.
Yes, this is ancient history. Will probably includes Pac-Man.
Pac-Man, okay.
Yeah, Pac-Man.
In 2002, Pac-Man was already way. Pac-Man started in what, 70s, 80s?
Yes.
Yeah.
So first few games I played Pac-Man. Fast forward to 2002, 2003, I think there was a game called Freelancer, which now they are coming up with a new version under. Under this guy called, they are calling it Robinson Industries. It is the game which is the most hyped up game of all time, and it has raised about 100 million crowdfunding funds to kickstart it.
Right.
And I was playing about Freelancer. It's a space-based games, and I finished the game, and I thought it would be nice if I have a space game to continue playing, and I end up making one. Then I called.
But do you have any know-how in the game making and designing games back then?
No.
No. You just told yourself, I want to make a game, and you set out to do it.
Yes. It's not that hard.
It's not that hard.
It's not that hard. It's not that hard to
career change already. Yeah.
It's not that hard. I would say that making games is quite different from the technical aspect, programming, engine, maths, all that. It's more on the creativity part, more on concepts, ideas. What do you think is fun?
Right.
So that is something which back then there was no course on game design, game development or whatnot. It's something that you need to figure out yourself back then.
Right. Is it so? It's something that you figured out yourself. And when you made your first game, how did it fare? I mean, when you spoke to people who played the game, what did they say about your first game?
Well, they did say that it was boring.
Amateurish, boring. What else?
They say it's boring. It'd be good to have this. It'd be good to have that. And that's kind of how it's snowballed.
Right. Yeah. So you get ideas, feedback from people,
yes,
and you work on the feedback and move on to develop other games. But at that point, did you know this was going to be your career, making games, coming up with new ideas for games? Did you already have in your mind that you wanted to turn this into a career?
Back then, I was a web designer. I design web page. So I have a full-time job, and this is something I do, for fun. And I didn't know that I was going to, it never popped up in the mind. I'm going to be a professional full-time game designer. It never actually occurred to me.
Right.
And it like I said, it kind of snowballed. One friend becomes two friend becomes four unknown strangers playing the game, and
Right.
it kind of snowballed, and demand increased. That means they keep asking for more and more and more. I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that. And before I knew it, about August 2003, I quit my full-time job to do the games full-time.
So from a web designer, he quit his job to take on making games or designing games full time because you knew. Did you know it was a lucrative thing, or did it? Was this telling you that, look, I get to be on my own. I get to do things on my own. I'm not dependent on anyone. How was it for you when you first started this? Because as you rightly said before we walked into the studio, you hardly meet people. You're always at home. You work from home. Lucky you. You don't have to go out. But was that the lifestyle you wanted, or was it because the money was good? And be honest with me, because I don't get many people who are honest sitting here.
Well, it didn't occur to me. Like I said, it kind of snowballed in that way, and I sort of like caught in the current. It's like you jumping in the river, and the
Right.
river just flowing, and you just go with the flow. And it was never about the money. It was more about
Wanting to do your own thing.
yes,
And
having
yeah.
your own accomplishment. Because after a certain time, I was working for about 10, 15 years. After some time, you'll be like, what am I going to do in my life?
You
That
just
type of
start-
things, yes.
The work
And-
life starts making you a very a different person. Kind of changes you.
Yes.
You didn't quite like that.
Yep.
So you decided to change. Now, when you got into it, how did you eke out a living, or did you, with your first game itself, you started making a lot of money? Seriously, because most of us want a career change, and you never know.
Well, I
Might be
could say
making
that
games tomorrow.
it was hard.
Yeah.
It was really, really hard.
Uh-huh.
I got my first paycheck of 60 US
60 US, okay.
after 3 months of working. And I was very thankful that back then my girlfriend was supporting me, quite supportive. Says, well, pursue your dreams. At least for a few months, see how it goes. If it doesn't do well, go back to work.
Right.
She was thankful. She was there for me. We are married now.
Yeah. Oh,
And
congratulations.
she was there to support me, morally, financially. Says no problem. I can handle things on my own and all that. And that actually helped me out a lot because it is really, really not easy to start out in the game.
Right.
And I only see positive, financial returns after about 1 or 2 years.
Right. The very interesting thing about this man is about Stephen. When I first spoke to him, I saw this cap he was wearing, tea and coffee, and somehow we got into a conversation talking about coffee. And he says, "I like to make coffee. I like barista work, and making coffee and watching people enjoy it is something I like." But he doesn't. He owns a cafe which is not open to people.
Yes, it's not open for public.
It's pretty strange. We're going to be talking about that later. But coming back to talking about your gaming life now. In 2003, you started. Up until now, how many games have you developed, or you're currently
I've made
developing?
about 7, 8 games. I can say that about 4 of them I open up to public, as in commercially available, that you can pay to play it and all that. The rest didn't actually make the cut. Because in the process of playing games, it may sound really evil,
Right.
but that's the process of game design. You have to make a game which is so addictive that
Yeah. By the way, if you have a child who's addicted to his video games or her video games, he's one of the people you can blame for. But we also want to delve into that later. Addiction with regards to a game. So, 4 games are currently online,
yes,
and or rather open to the public, and there are some games that you keep to yourself.
some of the games which didn't make the
They
cut
just didn't take off, lah.
Well, they are on the sideline. They are somewhere there, but they are not.
But are you going to rework these games? All these games which are not doing well. I'm sure you have a formula now,
Well, if I have time.
if you have time.
Yeah, but bear in mind this is more like an indie game company. That means it's not a very big company. We have hundreds of people working on it. It's just
Yeah,
maybe
that's what
a
Rovios
handful.
did when they first started off. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a handful of people, and I only have 2 hands, so there's only that much I can do.
Right, but that's what you want to do. You don't want to. I'm sure you can employ more people and start a small company and start developing or churning out a lot of games, but you don't want to do that?
I actually did that, and I found that the goal of the reason why I'm in the game industry has changed. Instead of making games that is fun that people play, it turns into a business, and you're doing it for money.
Right.
I did that for a while. Then I decided that's not the direction I'd like to go. So I shut down my office, and I reduced the size of the team to really small.
Right. So you reduce the size of the team, but now you can also do it alone. Now with technology and how technology has moved forward, they say if you don't update yourself every day, in a month you'll lose touch with what's happening in technology. That's how fast technology works.
Yes,
now from the time you started making games to now, the tools for people to create games, are these tools better now? Is there a lot of help out there for people to embark on a career on making games?
Yes, there's a lot of new tools has recently come out, and they have made game design really easy. It's so easy that anybody, even without technical knowledge, game design knowledge, or even knowing art, can make their own games. And it is good and bad. Yeah, it's good in the sense that a lot of new people can go into the industry.
Right.
The bad thing is you don't have depth because you're using somebody else, pre-drawn pictures, pre-drawn videos, and all that, and it doesn't have the depth that you have it.
Right.
Bear in mind that there are some games who uses very easy to use tools, and the games are quite successful as well.
Right. Well, Unification Wars is one of the games that you've designed, and it's probably one of your more popular games.
Yes.
Okay, tell us about Unification Wars. And it sounds scary when you say Unification Wars. What's coming to my head is World War. Or World Wars. That's scarier.
Unification War is inspired by Star Wars. It is a game where you try to unify all the planets in space or in the universe or in the galaxy, and it's basically a war game where you have 2, 3, or 50 teams of people.
Right.
The team comprised of 20 people, and they will fight to expand their territory and to climb the ranks. And this is, I would say, it's an online game where you play it online, and it is a more strategic game. In game, there's many genres, from action, role playing, and educational games.
Right.
This is more on strategy, where you have a group of 20 people, most of them is adults, sitting down like war council, planning, how should we attack, what should we do, how do you organize the resources. So it's quite interesting in that way.
Right. It's interesting, but with games you also hear, although technology has come up with so many games and entertainment, there's a surplus of games that can entertain people and that can also change mindsets. Some people use games to train other people in order to do things they don't want to do. Well, we're going to be delving into that, but before we take a short break, which is coming up very soon. With the games, or rather in the gaming industry, there are different terms. So we'll come back and talk about WOW, COC, UC. All these are different genres.
Those are names of the popular games.
Popular games, okay. So we're going to come back and talk about that shortly, right here at The Nation. What we're trying to do today with regards to gaming is give you an insight about what the gaming industry, if you don't already know what it is, and of course talk about the effects that come along with the gaming industry. Of course, there's some good effects, there's some bad effects. We're going to try to work the two out and see what we can come out, or rather what we can get out of this or derive from this towards the end of the program, simply because we have an expert in the studio, a man who's been developing games for a long time. He just does what he wants to, and I think that's a life all of us aspire to want to lead. Well, I will be back shortly, right after a break, right here on Bernama TV's Nation. Stay with us.
Bernama Today, a daily lifestyle morning variety talk show that touches on current topics in Malaysia and around the world, also featuring compact interviews with guests from various backgrounds. Don't forget to tune in to Channel 502 live from Mondays to Fridays.